On.
Hi, I can promise that won't be as tidy. My presentation won't be nearly as tidy or efficient, so you have something to look forward to. Hi, so I'm Michael Pregill. I am the interlocutor in the Muslim Studies program at Boston University. I'm the coordinator of Mizan Project. We're live at mizanproject.org if you want to check us out. Right now, I have a few screenshots to give you representative samples of what we're doing. I want to give kind of a basic narrative about Mizan, who we are and how we came to be, because I think that this is appropriate, even in the nature of my job, the nature of the project is appropriate to the topic at hand. We reflect, I think, a very purposeful attempt to think outside the box in terms of what can be done, kind of experimentally within the scholarly ecosystem. In the humanities, larger digital humanities, however you want to locate us. We are primarily humanities-oriented, though we also do some social scientific stuff. So I describe Mizan as a digital scholarship initiative. This is broad, vague, right, because we do a lot of different stuff, but also gives it kind of like a nice serious ring. People say, what does that mean? And I say, well, look, here's our thing. The origins lie in an attempt to create a dynamic, online, open access, peer-reviewed journal, which was originally cleverly called the Islamic e-journal. So the first thing I did was rebrand a little bit, right? They also had a very Baroque kind of aesthetic, which I stripped down into this nice thing that looks like, as the designer and I agreed that the aesthetic we were going for was kind of like robots, but like friendly robots. So we get the light blue and the white and the open space, right? But anyway, so there was a project at the Center for Hellenic Studies at Harvard called Athens Dialogues. They tried to think outside the box in terms of what could be done with peer-reviewed material put online. We basically took that model and transferred it to Islamic Studies. That was the mandate. It's a partnership between the ILEX Foundation and the BU Muslim Studies program. The idea was to have a journal that also could function as kind of an online forum that would allow academics in Islamic Studies to gain a wider audience, to deploy expertise in a more public way. Sometimes we joke that basically the idea was to do serious work that was easy to share on Facebook and share with your cranky uncle, right? The contours of the project in terms of our subject matter basically reflect my areas of interest and expertise. We do a lot of stuff on classical and medieval Islam, historical Islam, but also trying to bridge the gap between the historical and the classical and issues of contemporary relevance. So for example, spoiler alert, the first issue of the journal, which we published, was on the Islamic State, the Islamic State phenomenon in historical perspective. So you see there kind of a classical and contemporary put together. Topics we have represented on the site in our pieces are scripture, authority, identity, Islamic origins, the Quran, Islamic law, Muslim relations with Jews and Christians, and visual culture. We approach all of these subjects with a view to making what scholars have to say relevant for a broader audience, educated lay people, elementary level students, and the college classroom. Basically, the label we use is public scholarship. That term was not in circulation when the project was being developed, and when I came on, I said, oh, public scholarship, and they said, yes, that's it exactly. My wife is a digital humanist and technologist and librarian, so I learned that from her. I was hired as interlocutor in 2015. This basically means somebody whose job it is to foster conversations, right? I should note that my position is staff administrative. I left tenure to do this. I have a PhD in Islamic Studies. I had tenure at Elon University in North Carolina, and I taught religious studies for 7 years. Well, actually, I taught at Elon for 7 years. I taught college level for 12 years. There's kind of an issue to be discussed in terms of like personnel. If you're going to have a project that's outside the box, you need people who have jobs that are kind of unconventional. I could not do what I'm doing and function in the normal kind of tenure track or tenured line. Maybe we'll talk about that later. We all know, I think most of us know, that digital humanities is not just putting stuff online, but doing something different, right? Doing something that the analog technology does not allow you to do. This is something I really want to emphasize here because it's, I think, really germane. We do that both, or we aim to do that, both in terms of, the technology, what we're literally doing with the material, but also kind of the concept behind the content. And I think this is really relevant for this issue of scholarly blogging, right? Our main channel here at mizanproject.org is or project for short, is basically short and long form features. I don't like this terminology of blogging sometimes, because you think that's one person, either opinionating or talking about their work, or expressing themselves in a serious fashion, but it's usually one person's kind of individual thing, and all of our materials commissioned, and it's all commissioned from credentialed scholars. Do I just click? Ah, nice. Some blogging, we're maybe pushing the boundaries of what scholarly blogging is, because we do have some longer form material. Most of our blog posts are, that's really hard to see, I'm really sorry. Most of our posts are about 2,000 words. Some of them go up to 5,000 words. Some of them are two-parters that are 10,000 words. So as long as, or longer than your conventional peer-reviewed journal article. The main channel is Project. We have a second channel, Mizan Pop, which is, as you might infer, dedicated to short scholarly discussions of pop culture pertaining to the Muslim world. It tends to focus on multimedia stuff. So film, music, graphic arts, comic books, and right now fashion is a particular interest, because we have people who work on that in our circles, our networks, but in the future we may branch out to children's literature, or like young adult literature, as that reflects Muslim community concerns. That's the second channel. Third channel is Mizan Journal. This was supposed to be the original core of the project. And we launched, so I was brought in 2015. We were supposed to have a 3-year development period and have the first issue in 2018. I came in and said, hey, why wait? If your goal is public scholarship that aims to improve online discourse about Islam, there's no better time than the present. So I was hired in January 2015. We started publishing on Project in September 2015. We launched Mizan Pop spring 2016. First issue of the journal came out 2 years early, fall 2016. Second issue will be finished whenever I can finish editing it, so God willing, sometime in the near future. But I'm kind of procrastinating by showing up here, right? First issue was the Islamic State in historical and comparative perspective. We have future issues will be on Islam and magic, religion and violence, Iraq and Iran in antiquity. What else is coming? Oh, Islamic stories of the biblical prophets. Topics that are sort of interdisciplinary, might have a broader appeal outside of the narrowly scholarly. This was intended to be the core of our identity, but I said, let's kind of get our name out there. So this is how we started with the short form stuff, the blog posts. And then somebody said, hey, let's do this stuff on pop culture. And I said, oh, let's just have a dedicated channel for that. Technological issue. This is really hard to see, sorry about that. But each issue has kind of multimedia capacities, right? You've got your sort of standard hyperlinks that go outside, obviously. You've embedded links to a multimedia gallery, which can be viewed separately or can be linked to from the body of the article. And the thing that we borrowed from the original project at the Center for Hellenic Studies, Athens Dialogues, was an annotation function. So somebody reading the article, if they're registered and you have a person, namely me, to vet people so doesn't turn into like a playground for trolls, basically somebody emails me, says, hey, I want to join the community, I want to be an authorized user. You can't see the contrast here. This is supposed to be blue.
Careful.
This is supposed to be blue here, but basically you can embed a comment and then annotate within the body of the article. And then the author could come in and respond. And if there was a controversy or something, I keep waiting for a controversy, but ideally you would have this organic growth of a conversation based on the journal article, within the body of the article itself. This is what I mean by digital humanities as doing something technically that you can't do, through analog means. Oops. I guess I'm done. Okay. Quickly, because I'm running out of time. What we try to do conceptually, that's a little bit different, is we are trying to push the boundaries of what authentic scholarly communication is all about, right? I originally thought, well, hey, let's have the blog, let's have Mizan Pop. That's kind of like the candy, right? We'll have these short pieces, we'll put them out on social media, we'll draw people in, we'll get our name out there, but the journal is what we really do. That's what really counts. And after a number of conversations with people, I started to realize, no, scale it. It's all authentic scholarly communication. It's all written by real people who deploy their expertise in significant ways, whether they're talking about Muslim punk rock, or comic books, or manuscripts, or the origins of Islam, or the somewhat more specialized, but still hopefully, generally of general interest, the stuff that we do in the journal, right? There's a scale. Some of the material's more in depth, some of it has broader appeal, but we've really tried to think about it as all being legitimate, for real expertise on Islam, which has this larger kind of public scholarship role to play. So the whole thing is kind of experimental. And something to talk about maybe is, what does this mean in terms of institutions? What does this mean in terms of personnel, right? I could not do what I do and be vetted by conventional academic standards. I've done the equivalent of, 10 edited volumes in the 3 years I've been working on this, right? But could I be tenured on that? Probably not. This is something that comes up because contributors come to us and say, hey, how will my dean look at this blog post? You've got this stuff about Muslim comic books. I don't want to look like I'm not serious. And I say, well, it is serious, right? It's an ongoing conversation about what's taken seriously and what will be recognized as authentic in the scholarly environment. I've overstayed my welcome. Thank you.
Very good. Sorry.